crazed delinquent who copes with his unlawful actions by doing whatever he wants. A director reflecting on the past to unlock the truth whilst making a film about his childhood. The trials of man extend to the very ends of the universe in ways that cannot be imagined through simple words. Japanese New Wave was an era that kicked off Japan's cinematic 60s and ended just before the turn of the 1980s. It's a genre that focuses on exemplifying controversial topics through sound, visuals, and story. Focus on the terror and chaos that happens in the world may make it sound like Japanese New Wave films are destined to be PSAs about drugs or promiscuity, but the art and creativity of the greatest directors of Japan beg to differ. This creativity formed unearthed cinematic gems lost to the ever-flowing passage of time. Well, I found 2 of those gems for you today. It seems like the only thing left to do is to kick it off.
I think it's time to blow this scene. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
The Warped Ones is a high-energy jazz-influenced crime film that follows Akira, a delinquent free to ravage upon the streets of Japan after being released from prison. The most amazing thing about this film is how it proves that a piece of art can stay the same and still be a transformative masterpiece. Akira is a hardened criminal, but still finds a way to wiggle into your heart. His open arrogance and rebellion against the world makes him an admirable figure, albeit one that doesn't have a very good moral compass. In this scene, we see Akira publicly mocking the art of Fumiko, the woman he terrorizes throughout this film. Akira is not only mocking the art itself, but the high-class, elitist stigma around it. The room is filled with quiet, stern citizens as Akira enters, rain-soaked and ready to cause a riot. But Akira is also a symbol of social justice, rebelling against issues in the 60s such as poverty, gang violence, and racism. Akira, throughout the whole film, promotes the creativity of black people, something extremely rare to see in 1960s Japan. The reason for this being how the jazz influence of this movie is a perfect waltz with the storyline and stylistics of the film, as well as director Koriyoshi Kudahara wanting to break racial barriers in Japan. After all, jazz was created by African American people and has continuously been one of the most experimental genres in all of music history. The way this film handles controversy is to shove it in your face and make you form your own opinions and conclusions. The Warped One's story is, in actuality, extremely dark. Many of the crimes Akira commits are unforgivable, but the viewer somehow sees it as more light because of the soundtrack. Peppy jazz found throughout this film is a beautiful juxtapose to the wreckage Akira leaves behind him. The aim towards the youth subculture of beach-going, jazz, and progressive mindsets towards sex caused major upsets in Japan, making this film a controversy within itself. Japanese New Wave was a revolution in film that got people talking and rejected traditionalist ideals in favor for the radical change that still pushes art forward today. New Wave takes a step back from the focus on the protagonist and the main plot to exemplify the street life and culture of Japan. There are brief moments scattered throughout this film that show normal people going through life as usual, and showing that controversy is truly all around us. It also reminds the viewer that every single person in the world has their own demons and has done bad things. This can make Akira seem better than he really is. But what we must not forget is that Akira is not a good person. In one of the very first scenes in this film, Akira kidnaps and rapes Yumiko. Now the viewer is constantly reminded of this throughout the whole film because of how often Akira harasses her. And the viewer must also ask themselves, is Akira a hardened criminal, or is he just a man that made a mistake? Is his continuous committing of crimes a way of coping, or is he truly evil? Do we as a society forgive men like Akira, or do we put them in prison to rot for the rest of their lives? What makes the scene so special to me is not only Noriko Matsumoto's beautiful, subtle acting, but also that this is where the true beauty of the film lies. The scene is all one tightly wrapped bundle of chaos and pain, but it's played out so serenely and calmly. At this moment, even Akira shows regret and hurt. But the film keeps rolling, so this ethereal moment is locked and only leaves us with more questions. Pastoral to Die in the Country is one of the greatest pieces of art of all time. This film is like a walk through hell, only for you to meet the eyes of Satan. Each shot, each line was so carefully crafted with a love for cinema and a deep resentment towards the outside world. Pastoral is demonic, it's evil, it's erotic, it's heart-wrenching, it's timeless, and pulls no punches. The experience of Pastoral to Die in the Country is symbolic within itself. The film handles controversy in a very different way than the Warped Ones. The Warped Ones shows you the controversy as it happens within that time frame and location. Pastoral is a magnificent theatrical display of the true carnage controversy brings. Things like death, murder, birth, abandonment, and adultery are showcased in this crescendo of the film. It is not only a look into the director's mind, but also into the deepest, darkest corners of the culture. Pastoral shows the past as a part of colorful scenery, even if there are malicious things behind that colorful guise. The present, in this case 1974, is a dull grayscale with its only highlights being the smoke out of the mouth of citizens. This piece is transformative in its own sense. People will always have nostalgia for days in the past where everything seemed better. The present will always seem bleak and worse in comparison to the past, full of energy and growth. The river of time is explored and swam through from start to finish in Pastoral. Pastoral to Die in a Country follows Jin Terayama, a director who reflects on his past to finish a film he's currently in the making of. He goes into the past and meets his past self when he was 15. Now, past and present Jin are two very different people, and they must each go on a journey of their own throughout the entirety of the film to truly discover who they are. But Pastoral is not all trials and tribulations through hellfire and torture. A lot of the film accentuates things like growth, overcoming fear, acceptance, and maturity. Each and every character in this film is selfish in their own way and shows the audience that nobody is perfect. What makes Pastoral such a beautiful piece of art is the passion that can be seen throughout the film. Every detail is symbolic and places significance to the plot, whether it be setting, props, or even sound design. Visually, I think Pastoral is probably my favorite film of all time and is a true masterpiece with its art design and creativity. When Jin enters the past of the film he is making, he meets with his former self, and the film twists and turns to bend the past as well as the viewer's mind, and you're left speechless. I leave you with this. In a world of chaos, where does an artist stand?